G'day guys, it's Chronicles of Solid here, and today I'm doing a review on this guy, the Honda CB500X. Now it's a Lambs approved bike. It's a 500cc parallel twin, and it's part of a 3-bike range. There's the 500R and the 500F. What sets this apart from the other two is slightly longer travel suspension and a little bit of a different fairing here, just so you've got a little more wind protection, and of course the bars here, which are a bit taller than the other two. Just give you a little walk around. So let's go take it for a test ride and see what it's all about. The first thing I can tell you about this bike is how darn simple it is to ride. It is a really easy bike to get along with. Now, as I said before, it is Lambs approved, so here in Australia that just basically means that learner riders or new riders, we've got a class system here, so you can ride this on your RE license. Now, I've borrowed this bike from Prestige Honda here in Perth. Previn has kindly lent me this bike to go and do a test ride for you guys, and he said that the bike goes for about something around the 8,000 mark, 8.5. I can't quite remember. Being my typical self, I forgot as soon as I got on the bike, but it's really cheap. I mean, to put that in perspective, my 700 GS was about 15,000, so that's a big gap. And this little bike is actually pretty punchy for a little 500cc. The slow speed stuff, I'd say it's probably even got my GS off the line power wise. Now, as you expect, up top there isn't too much on offer, but if you're a guy and you've just got your motorcycle license and you're looking for a kind of adventure bike where you're not doing any hardcore off-roading, say you're just doing like fire service roads, you know, a road any car could get down on the dirt, but you want something that's upright, it's got the adventure look, and can have a whole ton of luggage strapped to it, and you can go and burn miles, I think you could easily do it on this bike. It's very confidence inspiring, handles really well, very flickable, very light as well. I've just hopped off the BMW, so this thing feels like a bicycle. Now, apparently fuel economy is really good on these. I should have done the specs off the top of my head, but I was planning to do a review on the CRF 250L, but they sold the demo, so I decided to take this bike instead. So fuel economy, I think, is somewhere around the 70 miles per gallon, somewhere around that mark, which is pretty good. I will go take it out on the freeway, see how it does at higher speeds as well. So this bike comes standard with ABS, and it seems to work perfectly. No shuddering or anything when you put the anchors on hard. Plenty of bite in the brakes. It feels about the same as my BMW, which is pretty amazing considering I think this has, it's got a single disc up front, whereas the Beamer's got twin, and this still feels like it's got about the same amount of bite. It's quite a nice looking bike considering the price, and it's a nice place to sit too. Seats comfy. Still getting used to the clutch. Oh, took off in second. So there's a good indication. It's got plenty of torque, enough to take off in second if you Forget what gear you're in if you're a muppet like me. So yeah, as I was saying, seat's comfy. The ride height is quite low, which is good if you're a shorter rider. So if you're a shorter rider looking for an adventure bike, this might be the way to go, purely because it's very light, it's easy to handle, and the reach to the ground is quite short. Now, I'm 180 centimeters tall, so I can easily flat foot that with a bend in my knees. So you could be quite short and fit reach the ground on this. Go, lady. So move along with quite a bit of hustle. What I have noticed though is if you're in tall gear and you're trundling along, it isn't too responsive, but that's to be expected of any small displacement motorcycle. It moves along with enough effort, but you might have to knock down a cog or two to really get moving. So we're coming up to the freeway. Let's see how she does at speed. So it's got a 6-speed, so we're sitting on 100. No problems at all. The wind buffeting isn't too bad. It's probably hitting the top of my motorcycle helmet. Plenty of acceleration in top gear at 100. The mirrors are really good, plenty of visibility. Yeah, overall it's quite a charming little motorcycle to ride. Stay green. Close enough. The motor is really quite a fun little bike actually. I feel like it's really been tuned for the street. It's quite nippy. The dash, as you can see, is quite nice. You got a fuel gauge, which is nice to have after being on a dual sport for a while. You just got to use your trip meter. This one you got your fuel gauge, pretty much everything you need to know. It's not too complicated of a dash. It's a fairly basic setup, but it's got all your important stuff. Now, as I mentioned before, this isn't a real adventure bike. In my mind, basically, the two biggest things against it are the suspension travel and the wheels that are on this. It's got standard street wheels, so if you're taking on the heavier stuff, it's probably going to feel a little out of sorts off-road, basically because of the wheel size. The bigger the wheel, the better usually off-road. My F700GS, for instance, has a 19-inch front, and that's considered a bit of a compromise, but what you really want is a 21, and I think it's got a 17 up front on this, which makes it fantastic for the street, but I would suspect not so great off-road. However, if you've done a bit of research, you'll notice that Rally Raid have just released a whole slew of products for this little thing. So you can get spoked wheels, exhaust, bash plates, suspension, all of that on these little guys now, which kind of brings up the question of, this could be a really good all-rounder. Just if you had to have one bike as an adventure bike, this could really do it. Considering that it's only just over 8,000 new, and then you factor in new wheels and some better suspension, you're still probably only looking at just over $10,000. which is still cheaper than the competition really. I mean, the BMW G650 GS is fairly similar in specs and stuff, and that's about 12,500, so that really puts it in perspective. As a budget adventure bike, this could be very good. When you're on the bike doesn't feel too small. You do know that you're not on an open class motorcycle, but the reach to the bars, as I said, the seat height, the distance from the seat to the pegs is all comfortable enough for me at 180 centimeters tall. If you're taller, you might start to push the limits of comfort for this little bike, but I'd say anyone under 6 foot, it wouldn't have a problem. The engine sound isn't too fantastic, as can be expected of anything these days with the emissions strangling the engines, but you do know you're on a bike that's bigger than 250cc's. You can hear the 500cc parallel twin rumbling away there. I suspect with a pipe it'd probably sound much better. I'll just find a little spot in here to pull off and we can have another look at it. Right, so here she is again. Very pretty little bike actually. It has a nice aesthetic. Some adventure bikes really look fairly ugly, but this one's quite a nice look. You can see the size isn't quite the size of a full-size bike, but it's definitely close enough, and you don't really notice it too much sitting on it. One thing that has been a little difficult with this bike, but it's probably just because it's been sitting there and it's a demo bike, it's a little difficult to get the bike into neutral. But apart from that, it's really good. Anyway, I'm pulling back into the dealership, so I'll catch you guys later.